3 Lives, 3 Worlds, Lotus Steps Book 3. One Step for 1,000 Kalpas. Chapter 16. By Tangqi. The night in Qingqiu is like an old picture in an ancient book, mysterious, spiritual, and distant, somewhat similar to Gugu. In this quiet night, Zuti was lying on the stone bed in the foxhole, unable to fall asleep for a long time. She thought about Yinlin's letter. At dusk, when she first saw the letter, she was indeed hesitant. She was stunned when she realized that she was hesitant, but soon she found a reason for herself. She defined her hesitation as the displeasure and unhappiness she felt after being deceived. This is really annoying, she thought. Obviously, a few days ago, Liansong told her that there was no personal matter between him and Wan Er. But if there is no personal matter, why are there so many romantic rumors about the two of them in the Bluebird clan's royal city? Those rumors were partly false and partly true, and even she had a hard time distinguishing between them. Why did he go to Xingling Cave with Wan Er during the Song dynasty? Was he curious about the holy cave and simply wanted to have some fun, or was it true, as the rumors said, that he and Wan Er were going to visit her ancestors to express their personal relationship? When Zhu Tizeng was walking among the Qingyo tribe as a young master, she knew that Wan Er had feelings for Liansong. As for whether Liansong was also interested in Wan Er, she was not sure. But Liansong did care about Wan Er. There may be many reasons for a young man to care about a woman. Maybe he treats her as a relative, like a sister, or maybe he treats her as... She had thought it was the former, but at dusk she saw Yinlin's letter. I believe it, and I feel maybe it's the latter. Now, in this quiet night, after her mind calmed down, she recalled the scene when she woke up in Fulon Palace a few days ago and Liansong sat beside the jade bed and talked to her. The young man frowned slightly, looked directly into her eyes, and said to her, "Wan Er and I have nothing personal to do." At that time, his expression was rare and serious. He shouldn't have lied to her. The young water god acted unruly, loved to cheat, and loved to tease others, but she could really trust that he would not lie to her about this kind of thing. Because I am too arrogant, I don't bother to do this. With my thoughts at this point, my heart, which had been unable to calm down since I got the letter in the evening, finally calmed down. However, in this case, the possibility that Liansong and Wan Er entered the Xingling cave together as rumored should be very small. But Liansong was not someone who could easily be plotted by Wan Yu. If he doesn't want to go to Xingling cave, what can a mere female queen of the Bluebird tribe do to him? So, was Liansong willing to enter the Xingling cave? Then why did he enter the Star Order cave? What else is there in the Star Order cave? Questions came one after another, but she couldn't think of any such questions based on her imagination. Zuti also understood, so she rubbed her forehead and planned to put it aside and send a letter to Yinlin after dawn, asking him to investigate the matter carefully. There was a white orchid planted at the entrance of the Bai family's fox cave. In early summer, the tree was full of flowers, and the fragrance flowed into the cave with the wind, refreshing the heart and mind. Zuti fell asleep in a trance under the fragrance of the white orchid, and then she had a dream. It was a very real dream, but it was not a prophetic dream. What you see in your dream is what has happened. When she was little Zuti, she once had such a dream, dreaming that she met Liansong for the first time in the Encana Hall of Qianjue Palace. But that dream was about herself, but this time the dream had nothing to do with her. She dreamed of Wan Er and her maid. It was evening, and the breeze pulled her consciousness and sent her outside the water pavilion of Wushuan Lake in Chaoyang Valley. No one can see her. She strolled into the pavilion, walked up the 17 stairs, and reached the second floor. The breeze came slowly, and there was a tool dancing in the room, and she stood behind the tool. Wan Er, dressed in regular clothes, stood on the other side of the gauze, talking to her personal maid, her voice cold and low. If it's because of the beasts of the 4 realms, he and I, at least from the outside, he can't tell that I'm plotting against him. She held the scroll in one hand and pointed to the porcelain bottle on the tray presented by the maid with the other. But if you use this magic charm, have you thought about the consequences? The maid panicked and apologized. I am a fool, but bitter lip and spoke again. But I am worried that if the Queen and the Third Highness enter the cave tomorrow, the state of love will not work on the Third Highness. Then wouldn't all your hard work and planning, Queen, be in vain? That's why I prepared this medicine to give Queen. Waner calmly said, it won't work. The water god is like water, heartless and heartless. I don't know what it is like to like someone and love someone. But love and desire are not the same thing. He is ruthless, but he has desire. If he had no desire, he would not linger among the flowers for tens of thousands of years. She smiled. The smile was light and hazy, a little vague, but there was a real sense of determination in her voice. As long as if there is desire, I will not believe that he can break through the realm of love and desire of the beasts in the four realms. The maid suddenly understood, and then she understood the logic of the matter. If you use the magic lore and realize that it is the female monarch's plan, then even if you and the female monarch, the Third Highness will not welcome the female monarch into Yunji Palace, but if it's because of the beasts in the four realms, then the female monarch is also a victim. See. The maid paused, discerned Waner's expression, blurred the words in between, and said with a happy expression, in short, slave, I feel that His Highness the Third Highness will definitely marry the female queen. Waner turned around and looked out the window, so Zuri couldn't see her expression and could only hear her voice. Her voice lowered, as if she was murmuring, as if she was speaking to herself. Yes, by then rumors will spread everywhere, and Gu was forced by the rumors and wanted to die to save his own body for the sake of Gu Xian's mother. How could he let me go to a dead end? He will definitely welcome me into Yunji Palace as his concubine to stop the rumors. At this point, she was quiet for a moment. He may not have any feelings for me now. But that's not important. She chuckled. The chuckle was cold and weird. Once I become his only concubine, then we will have a long time together. There was silence in the pavilion for a moment, and the maid said sincerely, Jun's game is really natural. Waner turned back to look at the maid and warned lightly, so don't do unnecessary things. The maid immediately knelt down and said in fear, the queen also knows that slave, sometimes I am stupid, but I only make stupid mistakes in front of the queen, please forgive me. Next, Waner's conversation with the maid was no longer important. Zhu Tiai's heart sank. It can be known from the words of the master and the servant that this happened 4 days ago. Although there was some concealment in the conversation between the two, Zhu Ti still understood their plan. There were 4 realm beasts in the Xingling Cave, and Yu wanted to lure Liansong to the Xingling Cave and use the hands of the 4 realm beasts to destroy him. Love and desire shared the dream with her, and then she spread the matter. At that time, Liansong had to accept her as his concubine due to the rumors. At this point, it is quite clear that the trip to Xingling Cave was indeed Waner's plan against Liansong. As for Yin Linxin, the anecdotes about Liansong and Waner that were circulating in Chaoyang Valley at this time must be people from Waner secretly building momentum. As for the female queen of the Bluebird tribe, Zhu Ti also knew that it was not easy for her to reach a high position. She originally thought that she fought bloody battles to reach the supreme position of the Bluebird tribe for power, but now it seems that this is not the case. Her maid praised the game she set for Liansong as a natural one, but Zhu Ti felt that the game was completely dishonorable and could even be called cheap, but she had to admit that it hit the point quite well. If Kosaburo failed to observe anything and this situation was successful, indeed, he would have to acquire at least 1 concubine in the end to put the matter to rest. Zhu Ti felt a headache, and for a moment she didn't know whether she should be angry at Xiao Sanlang for his endless love and debts, or be angry at Waner, a female queen of the clan, for being so crazy about love. Moreover, there are still 4 realm beasts in the Star Order Cave. This also surprised Zuri. It should be noted that 270,000 years ago, the dream demon Xiaozuan lured Xie Ming with the realm of love woven by the beasts of the 4 realms, which was observed by Sijia. Sijia became furious. In his rage, he not only seriously injured Xiaozuan, but also killed Xie Ming. All the evil beasts of the 4 realm beasts were killed. Therefore, There should be no more beasts from the 4 realms in the 8 wastelands now. But how could a fish slip through the net in the holy cave of the Blue Bird tribe? Just now Wanner commented on Lian Song, saying that he was ruthless but lustful. She couldn't judge whether Wanner's comment was correct. The only thing she knew was that if a person has desires, it is indeed difficult to deal with the beasts of the 4 realms. Xue said that Lian Song and Wanner had been in the cave for 4 days, so Xia Sanling, had he met the 4 realm beasts and fell into Wanner's plan? Zhu Tiai's heart skipped a beat. Just when she frowned and pressed her hand against her beating heart, the gauze and beauty in front of her suddenly disappeared, leaving only a vast expanse of sky and earth. She looked around, closed her eyes in the endless desolation and vastness, and counted 7 times silently in her heart. When she opened her eyes again, she saw a magnificent palace. The palace is spacious, but the light is dark. If you look closely, it is entirely because the lighting object is a red candle. A red candle as thin as a bamboo branch is placed in a hanging glass lamp bowl. The shadow of the candle shakes red, the light is hazy, and there is an ambiguity in the room. In the dim light, the music of silk and bamboo comes from the darkness, and dozens of dancers dance to the music with enchanting and sultry postures. Not far away, Lian Song was sitting on a high seat covered with gorgeous brocade, holding his chin up and admiring the dancing postures of the dancers. There was a woman leaning against his knees. The woman has a beautiful face and is dressed in light gauze clothes. She is Wanner. Wanner's chin rested on Lian Song's lap, his face flushed, his eyes blurred, and his posture delicate. Zhuti couldn't help but took 2 steps forward and saw Wanyu raised his hand. The water-red gauze sleeve slipped down, revealing bare white arms. The arm, as soft as boneless, grabbed Lian Song's shoulder. Lian Song lowered his head. Wanner smiled slightly, raised her upper body, and ran her fingers along Lian Song's shoulder line, landing on his neck. Then, she circled his neck. Lian Song didn't move at first, but after a while, he raised his hand and held Wanner's thin shoulder. Zhuti had seen such a magnificent state once, 270,000 years ago, when she helped Sijia rescue Xie Ming from the Dream Demon. This is the first level of the space array dominated by the 4 realm beasts, the realm of love and desire. Speaking of which, the reason why the 4 realm beasts are called 4 realm beasts is because every 4 realm beast is born with the ability to condense a kind of space formation, the 4 realm formation. The 4 realms formation is divided into 4 layers. The first layer is the realm of love and desire, the second layer is the realm of regret and hatred, the third layer is the realm of self-image, and the last layer is the realm of emptiness. In the prehistoric era, most of the beasts in the 4 realms had owners. If the creatures of the 5 races want to become the masters of the 4 realms beast, they need to tame it and then sign a contract with it. The owner of the 4 realms beast can freely come and go from the 4 realms formation created by the 4 realms beasts. However, if the creature trapped in the 4 realms formation is not the owner of the 4 realms beasts, it will need to go through the test of 7 emotions and detect the 7 emotions before it can leave the formation. In fact, most living beings cannot withstand the test of the illusion, and often get lost in it and cannot leave the battle. Their spiritual power will be sucked by the beasts of the 4 realms and then inherited by their masters. At that time, gods and demons raised 4-level beasts, mostly for 2 purposes, either to take shortcuts for cultivation, or, like the dream demon Xiaozun, who trapped Xie Ming in the realm of love and desire, to seduce innocent women. Therefore, Sijia got angry that day and got rid of the 4-realm beast clan. Even his brother Shilua, who was always compassionate, didn't say anything about it. What Wanner's doing now, if you think about it carefully, is actually no different from what Xiaozun did back then. The master of art in Wanner was so bold that he dared to use the beasts of the 4 realms to plot against Lian Song. He must be sure that they would be able to get out of this formation in the end. It can be seen that the owner of the 4-realm beast in Xingling Cave is her. A few steps away, when Lian Song put his hand on Wanner's shoulder, Wanner glanced sideways at his hand, then smiled softly, his body as soft as a snake, and moved towards Lian Song. Zhu Tiai's heart tightened, and she forgot that she was in a dream at this moment. She immediately wanted to step forward, but as soon as she took a step, she fell weightlessly into darkness. When he opened his eyes again, he was back to reality. She woke up. Shui received Zhu Tiai's call in the middle of the night and had no time to put on her clothes properly. When I arrived at Zuti's room, I saw her writing in a hurry and writing letters under the lamp. Shui waited for half a stick of incense before Zhu Ti stopped writing. She sealed the envelope she had just written and handed it to him, then took out a long wooden box from the cabinet on the side and gave it to him, saying, "I want to borrow the shand pot from Emperor Baiji. The emperor and his wife have been here for the past few days. Then he will return to the eastern wasteland and meet the emperor. You should give him this letter and this thing. If the pot of kindness is in his hand, he will not make things difficult for you after seeing this letter. He should give you the pot, and then you take the pot and go back to Gugu first." Shui understood her words and was slightly surprised. "Your Majesty, you don't plan to stay in Qingqiu anymore. Where do you want to go, Your Majesty?" Zhu Ti was silent for a moment, her face was solemn, and she walked out and said, "Xiao Sanling. I gotta go see him." Shui didn't know why. After sleeping for half the night, Zhu Ti changed her mind and couldn't help but wonder, "Didn't Your Majesty say that even if the trip to Xingling Cave was a ruse, it was also a beauty trick used by Lady Mixia? The third prince is charming and will be happy to accept this beauty trap. Why does Your Majesty suddenly want to meddle in such nosy matters again?" Zhu Ti had already opened the door and paused after hearing the words, "Xiao Sanling and I made a bone-gnawing mantra and vowed to treat each other with sincerity and kindness. If he is interested in Mixia Nu Jun, that's all, but most likely I have no interest in Mixia. So, knowing that Mixia is plotting against him, I can't just watch him being plotted against." As she said that, she raised her hand and rubbed her forehead, "Although I don't know how much I can do to fix it now, but..." Before she could finish her sentence, she frowned, and the look on her face turned cold, as if she was bored. Shui understood. "So, Your Majesty is rushing to Chaoyang Valley to relieve the third prince from his predicament." His heart moved slightly. Zudi was so anxious and rushed to save the third prince at night and starry night. It was really just because of the devouring bone mantra? Maybe because he was woken up in the middle of the night and his head was a little dizzy. Shui, who was always cautious, actually made a mistake that only Shuang he would usually make. He actually said what was in his heart. "Your Majesty, you are here because of the bone-eating mantra. Or is it because..." Fortunately, as soon as the words came out of his mouth, he reacted and quickly stopped talking. But Zhu Ti had already heard it. She stood outside the door and looked back strangely. "Is it because of... what? What do you want to say?" Shui hurriedly said, "It's nothing." She calmed herself down and explained slowly, "I want to say that even if there is no bone-gnawing mantra, I think you will help the third prince. After all, when you were ruthless and desireless in the past, Your Majesty would have helped the third prince. You have always been soft-hearted, but now that you understand the 7 emotions, you should be more compassionate and compassionate." Shui's nonsense was very true, and Zhu Ti did not doubt that he was there, and after hearing that the always accommodating divine messenger said a few words of worry about her after the explanation, she comforted him with a few words. "I will let Yinlin accompany me into the cave. With him protecting me, you can rest assured." While talking, the two of them arrived at the entrance of the fox's cave. Zhu Ti summoned Qing Yun and left quickly. When Shui took away the letter, Yinlin thought that maybe Zhu Ti would come, but he didn't expect her to be so quick. The snow left early yesterday morning, and Zhu Ti appeared at the entrance of Xingling Cave at dawn today. The restriction of Xingling Cave is also a kind of space formation, which can only be opened with the female monarch's soul seal. However, few space formations in this world can truly resist the god of light, so she and Yinlin can easily pass through it. The cave door. After walking through a long and narrow cave, it suddenly opened up to an otherworldly spiritual realm. The spiritual realm is vast, and it seems difficult to find someone who has been in the cave for nearly 5 days. But it is easy to find the 4 realm beasts. The beasts of the four realms survive by sucking the vitality of living beings. They did not hide their spirit breath fairyland, and soon attracted the beasts of the four realms to show up. When they looked at the huge alien beast with saber teeth, gray mane, one horn, and tiger shape, the two of them successfully fell into the four-dimensional formation dominated by the alien beast. After a brief feeling of weightlessness, they stood in front of a magnificent palace. Zuti frowned, raised her hand, pushed open the door of the hall, and walked in quickly. There are many red candles in the hall, which can be called ambiguous and coquettish, but it is empty, as if no one is there. Going further, you can see that there is an Emerlin throne in the deep part of the dim hall. Under the Emerlin seat is a gorgeous and thick felt rug, and a woman is lying sideways on the rug. Lin stepped forward and turned over the woman, and found that the woman had passed out, but it was Wan. As the king of a clan, Wan always dressed decently and dignifiedly, but now she was wearing a gauze dress that only dancers would wear, and her makeup was also very charming. Lin didn't know what was going on. Zuti glanced at the thin but neat clothes on Wan's body, and her face became more relaxed. She squatted down and touched Wan's forehead and murmured softly, "It's because he was given a sleeping spell." He stood up and said, "It seems that Xiao Sanling has explored the realm of love and desire and moved on to the next realm." Although Lin has never entered the Four Realms formation, he was born in the ancient times and knows a lot about the Four Realms beasts. The state of love and desire of the beasts of the Four Realms is an evil state. All living beings in the world fall into it, but if there is love and desire, it will be magnified hundreds of times, leading to dementia and sinking. It can be said that this evil state is comparable to a strong enchanting drug. Therefore, Lin was a little surprised when he heard that the usually romantic water god had discovered this situation. When the two of them came down the jade steps, Zuti suddenly stopped him. Lin. Lin turned around. Zuti looked at him and said, "I'm going to the next realm to find Xiao Sanling. The next realm is the realm of regret. The road to immortality is long. I wonder if you have regrets that you can't let go of over the years." She stopped. After a moment, he said, "If so, don't go to the next realm with me. You will definitely fall into it." The second level of regret in the Four Realms array is different from the first level of love and desire. The state of regret is an illusion, a state of confusion. This state can detect the most unrelievable regret and pain in the hearts of the creatures who fall into it and weave illusory dreams for them. Living beings in that illusion can fulfill the most tragic regrets in life. In the prehistoric era, many gods and demons who fell into the Four Realms formation were all-powerful people who had great cultivation and were not bound by lust. However, they were eventually harmed by the beasts of the Four Realms. Most of them lost in this realm. However, Zuti is not afraid of this realm. It can be said that the Four Realms of the Four Realm beasts are nothing to her, because all the spells in the world that are designed to control and influence the soul are useless to the God of Light. All useless. However, the state of regret can hurt Lin. A figure in green clothes flashed through Lin's mind. His heart suddenly hurt, and he was speechless for a moment. Seeing his expression, Zuti's heart was clear. She said no more and waited for him quietly. After a long time, Linfeng whispered with some difficulty, "I do have regrets. If I go to the second realm, I may not be able to protect you, but it will drag you down. But without my protection, your body." Zuti raised her hand, stopped his words, and replied softly, "It doesn't matter. It's not appropriate for me to use heavy methods, but it's not impossible to use them. When it comes to a critical moment, it's no problem to protect myself. The beasts from all four realms can't hurt me." Fundamental. When Lin heard what she said, he knew that he could not stop her from going to the next realm. He was quiet for a moment and compromised. "Since your majesty is determined to go to the second realm, then I will be here." Zuti interrupted him. "Actually, if you go with me, even if you fall into the second state, it won't be a hindrance to me. But if Xiao Sanling is not in the regret state, I will have to go to the third state again. You have to search for him, and only after I find Kosaburo can I subdue or kill the Four Realm beast to save you." During that time, your spiritual power and vitality will be sucked by the four-realm beast. Seeing Yinlin stunned, as if he didn't understand what she meant, she smiled and said, "What I want to say is, Yinlin, if I have left great regrets in my past immortal life, this time I will be willing to exchange a few breaths of spiritual power and vitality to seek a perfection in the realm of regret, even if it is only an illusory perfection." Yinlin looked shocked and looked at her in disbelief. "Your Majesty means..." He didn't finish the sentence, but she understood what he meant. "Yes," she nodded back to him. Yinlin lowered his eyes, "But that is just an illusion after all." Zuti looked at him for a while, "But you look like you really want to experience the illusion, even if it is just an illusion." She sighed softly, "You have always been too restrained." "Yinlin, it's actually okay to indulge once in a while." Yinlin closed his eyes tightly. Zuti didn't say anything more, turned around and walked towards a half-moon-shaped silver-lit cave door at the end of the palace. That is the entrance to the second realm of regret that can only be seen by those who are not fascinated by the realm of love. Yinlin stood frozen for a moment, and finally he chose to follow Zhu Ti's pace. The realm of regret was still empty when Zhu Ti stepped into it, but when Yinlin stepped in, a long river appeared behind the white mist. The long river is vast and its direction is unknown. It comes from the thick clouds and goes back to the thick clouds. A stone tablet 100 feet high was erected by the river, with 3 elegant characters written on it, Cebu. In this state of regret, the entrance to Hades actually appeared. Amid the silver light in the sky, a woman in blue with long hair touching the ground walked out from behind the stone tablet. She held the stone tablet with her pale and slender hands. Her eyes were full of tears. She looked at Yinlin and her voice trembled slightly. "You're here, I'll wait here. It's been a long time for you." Seeing the woman, Yinlin, who had always been calm, suddenly turned red-eyed. "Green Harrier," he said hoarsely. When the woman heard his low call, she blinked slightly and shed tears as she fell to the ground. Yinlin walked towards her quickly. After taking a few steps, he seemed to think that his steps were not fast enough, so he started running. When he reached her, he took her into his arms. The woman also reached out her hand and hugged him tightly. Zuti was a little surprised when she saw all this, but not too much. It turns out that this is Yinlin's regret. She had really been sleeping for too long, and she didn't know when Yinlin had a love affair, which he, who had always been rational, regretted to this day. She took one last look at the pair of lovers hugging each other closely by the fountain of thoughts, suppressed the sadness in her heart, and walked towards the entrance of the third realm. As she expected, Liansong was not in this state of regret. She thought that he would most likely be in the third state. The third realm is the realm of the four-realm beasts. The state of self-image is different from the state of love and regret. It is not an evil state. To be honest, this state actually contains Buddha nature and is a state that helps living beings face their true selves. There is a lake in the realm of Xianghua, named Lake of Disparity, and there is a mirror of the heart at the bottom of the lake. When a living being enters the Lake of Disparity, he can see his own river of memories in the mirror of his heart. The river of memory flows continuously, and what is presented in the river is the memory of a living being's life. If there is a blank space anywhere in the river, it means that that part of the memory has been erased. If a person's memory has been erased, it is difficult to detect it in his recollection, but it is clearly visible in the river of memory. Therefore, in the prehistoric era, some gods and demons with strong willpower and the ability to explore the realm of love and regret would often use the realm of the four-realm beasts to examine their own memories. Because in that era, there was a period of deep conflict among the 5 tribes, and they were jealous. Everyone only wanted to win, and the sense of morality was generally low. Some forbidden and immoral techniques were often abused, and memory techniques were used. One of the most abused spells. Standing at the entrance of Xianghua realm, thinking of the characteristics of this realm, Zhu Ti suddenly understood why Liansong came to Xingling Cave. It's not that he fell into Wanner's plan, but that he was originally going to come here, and perhaps he came here just to get to know me. Did he suspect there was something wrong with his memory? Stepping into the third realm and seeing the scene, Zhu Ti strengthened her judgment. In the third realm, Lake Zaishu was frozen, and a layer of barrier was placed on it, which was the work of Lian Song. It seems that he should be at the bottom of the Lake of Disparity at this moment. It is not difficult for Zhu Ti to pass through the barrier. However, the barrier is close to the ice lake. It takes some time and effort to enter the disparate lake frozen by the water god's spiritual power. Lin and Song dynasty set up 2 checkpoints here to prevent outsiders from approaching. He must have used the heart mirror in the lake. Zhu Ti's immortal body contained the evil power of the Western Emperor's blade, and most of her mana was fighting against that evil power to maintain the fragile balance in her body. In this situation, it was not appropriate for her to use heavy methods. She could only try to gather her strength little by little to melt the frozen lake frozen with the power of the water god. Just as she stretched out her hand to form a seal and tried to gather her strength, she suddenly noticed a sharp gaze. The gaze was cold and dangerous. She looked up sharply. The moment she raised her head, she discovered countless beasts from the 4 realms rushing toward her from all directions. She was suddenly startled, and then she understood why Lian Song would freeze the gap and set up a barrier. What he was blocking should be the attacks from the 4 realm beasts. That's right, outside the body. In the 3rd realm of Xianghua realm and the 4th realm of Kong realm, the beasts of the 4th realm can indeed incarnate countless external bodies to hurt people. She almost forgot about this. Apart from not being able to form formations, those outer bodies are no different from the real bodies of the 4 realm beasts. They are also ferocious and agile and can severely injure others with their claws and claws. These dozens of external bodies cannot be blocked by ordinary barriers, but she cannot use the magic power in her body at will, so she cannot form a barrier that can effectively block these external bodies in an instant. All decisions are made in an instant. Zhu Ti flew to avoid the attacks from dozens of enemies, jumped to a high place, stretched out her hand to fish, summoned a huge bow, and fired 10 arrows in succession. The bow in Zhu Ti's hand is simple and huge, named Huaishu. It is a bow she often used in the prehistoric era. Although it has a compassionate name, it is a murderous bow. She would use it when fighting against others, but at that time she was not a prostitute, and there were very few occasions when she fought against others. Although the arrows were powerful and hit every time, the arrows she used at this time were all ordinary arrows without magic power. Even if the arrows hit the vital parts of the body, they would only make the target body disappear a few times. Just a moment. A moment later, the body outside condensed again, howling and roaring and coming with raised hooves. Zhu Ti's heart sank slightly. It seems that it can't be done without using mana. On the other side, under the disparate lake, the water god in white stands beside the river of memories in his mind's mirror, unaware of the fight outside the lake. He lowered his eyes and looked at the water in the river, his eyes darkening slightly. He entered the 4 realms formation 3 days ago. He originally thought that he had no desire for love or regret and could easily pass the 1st and 2nd level tests. However, in the state of love, he was sitting in that gorgeous palace when Wanyu knelt beside his knees, deliberately seducing him, putting her arms around his shoulders and moving her body close to him. At that moment, he felt he did have the illusion that there should be a woman in his arms. What kind of woman should she be? At that time, he seemed to be bewitched and his thoughts were confused. In that confused mind, the woman was a hazy shadow, as if she should have a waterfall of black hair, a slender and graceful figure, and should be like a beautiful and charming vine, pulling him and wrapping around him. Her charming posture and charming voice filled his empty heart. He didn't know what the woman looked like specifically, and he didn't know if these feelings were just a delusion, but he knew that if he was really controlled by the state of love, then the only thing he wanted was such a woman. At that time, he held Wanner's shoulder in a daze. Maybe when he thought she had finally seduced him. At that moment, a hint of pride and cunning appeared in her usually innocent and kind eyes. Little did he know that he was just trying to push her away. He did push her away, coldly, neatly, and without any pity. Just when he pushed Waner away, his spiritual platform became clear again. He could see the mountains as mountains and the water as water. When his eyes fell on Waner's face, he could clearly see the disbelief in her eyes. He felt bored. In fact, before entering the cave, he calculated that Waner might plot against him in this way. But after all, she is the blood of senior sister Lingxua, and she is a girl who has been raised in Yuanji Palace for a long time. He treats her with the heart of an elder, and he can be regarded as doing his best when she is growing up. He didn't want to believe that she would really plot against him, but she did, which disappointed him, but he couldn't say how angry he was. He just felt a little boring. Waner is very smart and good at acting. At this point, she can still calmly twist her eyebrows, pretending to be controlled by this state of love, and try to reach out to pull him. I feel so uncomfortable. He didn't want to see her acting pretentious in front of him, so he used the sleep technique to make her pass out, and then he entered the second realm. The experience in the state of regret is also very different from what Lian Song imagined. He felt that he had no deep-seated regrets in this life. In the long life of immortality, perhaps Chang Yi's matter could be regarded as a regret. He originally had high hopes for her, hoping that she could prove to him that there was something in this world that could be reincarnated and come back. But she really doesn't look good. What happened to Waner can be considered a regret. But these are not serious regrets. In his expectation, the second realm did not want to let him go easily, and insisted on weaving an illusion to restrain him, which was probably an illusion about Tangqi or Waner. He didn't think he would be bound by such an illusion, so he didn't take the state of regret seriously. However, he was completely wrong. After entering the second realm, for a long period of time, maybe half a day, maybe more than half a day, there was nothing in front of him, just a void. But he couldn't see the entrance to the third realm. Just when he felt a little confused, frowned and thought about how to deal with it, he suddenly heard a very soft brother Lensan coming from the void. Ethereal, soft, and gentle, it was Zhu Ti's voice. But it was not the voice of little Ziti, but the voice of adult Ziti. He froze. After Zhu Ti returned to her original life, she had never called him Liansan brother in such a loving and dependent voice. Out of a bad taste, he really wanted to hear his current Zhu Ti call him brother Lensan. But she had never called him that, and he didn't feel any regret. But why did this state of regret only bring this out and create this illusion for him? He thought it was a bit ridiculous and actually smiled softly. Just when the corners of his lips curved into a faint smile, the third realm appeared in front of him. Looking at the sudden appearance of the realm leading to the third realm, his smile stopped. He felt that this illusion was like child's play, and the opportunity to break through this illusion to obtain the realm was so inexplicable and weird. Accompanied by this strange feeling, he used magic to explore the gate, and thought about it for a moment before stepping into it. The realm gate is real. After stepping through the realm gate, he was in the destination of Xingling Cave, the realm of Xianghua. Today is already Lian Song's third day in Xianghua's realm. He spent a whole day looking at his memories of the past 70,000 years beside the memory river in the heart mirror. In the first inspection, he did not find any obvious faults in the flow of Iha River. The memory river flows seamlessly, indicating that there should be no problem with his memory. If it were anyone else, finding this answer might have given them peace of mind. But His Highness has always been skeptical. Out of caution, he used magic to slow down the flow of the memory river, and in the next 2 days, he carefully reviewed the memories of his 20,000-year-old adult life. It turned out that he was right to do so. After 2 days of rigorous inspection, he finally found a blank frame in the slowly flowing river of memories. It was very short-lived. If the river flow was normal, it would be impossible to detect a blank frame, which showed that there was indeed a problem with his memory. At that time, his heart was actually very calm, and he just thought, this is indeed the case. Fixating on that small piece of memory, he looked through the memories carried by that river frame by frame, and found that it was actually a period of time when he was tortured in Tiangui Mountain in the Arctic 30,000 years ago. 30,000 years ago. Very far away. He was very young then, and more capable of misbehavior than he is now. He remembered that it was because Tangqi was reincarnated as Yanlan, and he was guarding him in the lower world. He was tired of waiting in the mortal world. Yanlan, who happened to be reincarnated as a princess, was forced to get married. She didn't want to marry far away, so she came to beg him, so he made a marriage in the mortal world. A large sea came out, blocking Yanlan's marriage path, and also enabled him to end his bet with Tianjun ahead of schedule and return to the 9 heavens. As soon as the sea was created, he returned to heaven as he wished, but the price was that he had to go to the Tiangqi mountain in the North Pole and suffer the punishment of being hit by an ice waterfall for 7 days. The memory presented in the memory of the river is no different from his own memory. He saw that young version of himself bound by immortal chains, trapped in an endless waterfall, and being slashed by flowing blades. In the entire second peak of the Tangqi, there were only him who was being tortured and 2 generals who were executing the punishment. Other than that, it was difficult to see any living creatures. He remembered the 7-day punishment, which was painful, boring, and uninspiring. But in his memory of the river, everything was not that boring. At the end of this section of the river, a very clear picture appeared, but he could not remember it clearly on the last day of his torture. When he was chilled by the ice waterfall, when he half fainted from the tossing of the blade, in the quiet valley covered with thin snow, a woman turned around the valley pass and walked towards him. Looking at the image in the river, he did not recognize that it was a woman at first. He only saw a small dot slowly approaching the cold pool. After a while, the hazy approached Handan, and he could barely tell that it was a human figure. After a while, he finally recognized that it was a woman. The woman was wearing a golden dress and had a slender figure, but her face could not be seen clearly. When he took a few steps closer, he could make out the woman's face, but the scene in Iha suddenly disappeared. What follows is a blank frame. It was the blank frame he had noticed before when the river slowed down. And when another image appeared in the river, the woman had disappeared, and the young man was no longer in the cold pool ice waterfall. He closed his eyes tightly and lay beside the cold pool. On the last day of his torture, he did faint. It should be that when there were 2 remaining blade torments, he failed to hold on and fell into a semi-conscious state. In that kind of groggy moment, it is indeed possible to remember nothing. Perhaps that is why there is such a scene in his memory, but he feels strange to himself. He was familiar with the images that appeared after that brief blank period, and he remembered all those memories later, when he woke up next to the cold pool. The 2 heavenly generals who executed him said that it was because he was in the ice waterfall. He fainted. They were afraid that something might happen to him, so they opened the fairy locks that bound him and put him down. They let him rest by the pool for half a day. Seeing that the wounds on his back were hideous, they bandaged him. Before today, he had no doubts about this memory. But today he realized that there was a blank frame in this memory. The blank space showed that from the time he half fainted to the time he woke up by the cold pool, he might have been awake for a brief period of time and had an important experience. Then, that experience was erased. What was the experience like? Why was it erased? And by whom was it erased? He formed a seal to still the flowing water carrying the image of the woman and carefully identified it for a long time. Black hair, gold skirt, Tiangqi mountain. He was heartbroken. Although the golden skirt was not special, he happened to recognize a woman who was accustomed to wearing golden skirts, and this woman was closely related to the place shown in Iha River. God City. If he remembered correctly, Zhu Ti returned to his throne 30,000 years ago at the 7 peaks of the Sky Cabinet, and it was on the 6th day of his execution. His Highness's hand holding the fan was a little unsteady. Of course, the unknown woman in the river might be another passing fairy in a gold skirt. But he, who had never been emotional, had a strong feeling in his heart that this person was the one who had just returned to his position at that time. The god of ancestors. In this way, more than 2 months ago, on the way to the Bluebird clan, on the cloud boat, when Lin talked about his ancestor T, the strange expression and half-spoken words were explained. If he had seen Zhu Ti in Tangqi Mountain in the North Pole when she first returned to her throne, it could indeed be said that he had an old relationship with Zhu Ti. The third prince stared at the blurry figure in the water for a moment. But if this person was really her, and they had really met in this valley, why did she seem to not remember anything when he tested her to see if they had an old relationship? It's not like she's pretending that she doesn't remember. So, both of their memories of this period were erased? What kind of memory is it? Who erased this memory? Is it Lin? No, that's not right. In an instant, he remembered his first meeting with Zhu Ti in Qianjua Palace, the power of the Western Emperor's blade in her body, and Zhu Ti's pursuit of Qing Jiang after waking up from a slumber of nearly 30,000 years. He also remembered her ability to predict things. Is it possible that this matter has something to do with the demons? Perhaps. Zhu Ti foresaw the return of Qing Jiang and the rise of the demon clan at that time, but because she had just set a spell for this world, exhausted her spiritual power, and needed to sleep, she did not have more energy to go to the 9 heavens to communicate with the gods. The nobles discussed this matter and met him at Tangqi Mountain and told him about the prophecy of the demons. But this matter was discovered by the demons. This is indeed an explanation. Maybe it is not the case, but it is a direction at least. The Third Highness frowned and analyzed the possibilities that came to his mind one by one. While he was meditating, he suddenly felt a force shaking the barrier he had set. Is it the outer body of the four-realm beast again? He pursed his lips in disgust and withdrew the seal he placed on the heart mirror. The river in the mirror suddenly disappeared, and the frozen lake looked like a huge emerald with green light. He raised his hand slightly, and the water in the lake began to flow again. As the water flowed, the barrier emitted a stunning silver light. Outside the disparate lake, there was a bright light in the third realm, and Zhu Ti was currently dealing with the beasts of the fourth realm. When the outsiders attack, she has two choices, either to set up a barrier or to cast a light arrow. Setting up a barrier is for defense and requires the use of heavy methods. Using mana to turn light arrows to kill these outer bodies is for offense, and it also requires the use of heavy methods. Both will disturb the balance of the immortal body and cause her to hurt herself. In this case, she is of course more willing to attack than to defend. Zhu Ti held a bow in one hand and formed a seal with the other. Many light mirrors suddenly appeared in midair, and golden light also appeared between her changing hand seals. The golden light instantly turned into a long arrow, and when the long arrow touched the bow body, Huaishu's bow shook, and the golden light burst out, as if he was extremely happy. Indeed, ordinary feather arrows should not be paired with it. This powerful light arrow is its sole partner. If the beasts of the four realms were in their true form, they would definitely be wary of seeing the scene. However, these outer beings were ferocious and clever, so they did not notice anything unusual. They thought that their sharp claws and teeth were no match for the giant bow in the hands of the goddess, and they insisted on pursuing the ancestors. Ti rushed at her, intending to tear her into pieces. Zhu Ti did not hide. She stood calmly on the spot, holding back the surging energy and blood in her body, and drew her bow and arrow. The light arrow did not point to any of the bodies, but shot into the air at an upward angle. In fact, everything happens at the click of a finger. But if you slow down the speed 100 times, you can see that the long arrow hit a light mirror in midair, but the light mirror did not break. Instead, the arrow was included in the mirror, and then there were colorful lights from the light mirror. It radiated out, and when it came into contact with the small light mirrors similar to those arranged in mid-air, it was refracted and reflected, forming hundreds or thousands of light arrows in an instant. Arrows of light were like rain, accurately piercing into the bodies of the outsiders when they were only a few feet away from Zhu Ti. The light arrow entered the body, and golden light instantly filled the body of the body. Dozens of the body roared in pain, but before the roar ended, they turned into dust that could no longer be condensed. This is what Lian Song saw when he came out of Zaishu Lake. The woman has black hair, a golden skirt, and is holding a huge bow, standing dozens of feet away. She had a pale and beautiful face and a frail body, but when she was surrounded by dozens of ferocious beasts with their teeth and claws dancing, she showed no signs of panic or fear. Her expression was so calm, and her bow and arrow posture were so steady. There is a strange beauty in that picture that makes people lose their mind. But the loss of consciousness was only for a moment. After an instant, his focus instinctively shifted to why she appeared here and how she could appear here. But even he couldn't come up with the correct answer for a while. Just as those outer bodies were turning into ashes one by one, Zhu Ti tilted her head slightly and saw him. When she saw him, she didn't show any surprise on her face and smiled, as if she was relieved. Then her hand left the huge bow, and it immediately disappeared. He thought she was coming towards him, but she didn't. She looked into the void again, and after about 3 snaps of her fingers, she suddenly put her hands together and formed a complicated mudra. Seeing the handprint, Liansong's expression became stern, and his figure was like a stream of light, and he quickly rushed towards Zhu Ti. But it still failed to stop her. Golden light that seemed to cover 7 colors burst out from her delicate white fingers and instantly enveloped the entire realm of Phase 1. The formation is complete, and wherever the strong light reaches, it is a sealed area. The entire realm of Xianghua is already under the blockade of the God of Light. After setting up this powerful space array, she felt a little powerless and could not suppress the evil power of the Western Emperor blade in her body for the time being. The evil forces lost their restraint and scrambled to cause chaos. She was unprepared for a moment and suddenly spit out a mouthful of blood. Just as she was about to fall to the ground, a pair of hands held her firmly. Then she heard his voice, which sounded like a scolding, almost gritted teeth, but with helplessness. "Now that you are here, just wait for me in formation. Why do you use heavy methods and make such nonsense?" Blocking the entire space is an established tactic. If Liansong hadn't appeared, she would have dealt with the 4 realm beasts by herself after sealing off the realm of Lost Phase. Although the evil force in her body was running wild at this time, which made her feel a little uncomfortable, she judged that it would not be a problem to suppress the evil force for half an hour, and she was still able to deal with the beast of the 4 realms. But now that Liansong has appeared, she doesn't have to take the risk. It would be better to save a little effort, but I don't know if Kozaburo can subdue the beast of the 4 realms with his ability. When she was thinking about this, Liansong's hand touched her pulse. She was startled, pushed his hand away, raised her fingers and neatly sealed several marks on her body. The evil power that was running wildly was sealed. She raised her eyes and looked at Liansong. Although her face was pale, she smiled. "Xiao Sanling, I was killed externally, but the real body of the 4-realm beast is still there. If it is allowed to, if it escapes into the realm of space, it will be difficult for us to catch it, so I sealed this realm." She discussed with him, "I don't feel very well now and don't want to move. Can you do me a favor and go and capture it? Have the 4-realm beasts been subdued? Young people are very good at taking care of others." She had already learned this lesson when she was little Zhu Ti. When she said she felt uncomfortable and didn't want to move, he raised his hand to make an embroidered couch and led her to sit down. When she encouraged him to tame the 4-realm beasts, he pushed her shoulders and made her lean on the backrest of the embroidered couch, then held her legs and placed her feet on the couch. This made her doubt whether he had heard her instigation, so she couldn't help but raise her hand and put it on his shoulder. "You." She wanted to ask him if he listened to her, but after saying only one word, she said he stopped talking, his expression paused, and he was slightly stern. He noticed something strange about her and noticed the angle of her gaze. Her eyes swept up and to the right, and he understood her hint in an instant. They have a tacit understanding, although no one knows where this tacit understanding comes from. The young man remained calm, pretending to raise his hand to wipe the blood on the lips of the woman in front of him, while his other hand was hidden at his waist. He made a formula with one hand, turned it over slightly, and a mysterious fan appeared in his hand. The fan shape is warm and moist, but there is a sharp tip protruding from the end of the fan. There was silence in the 3rd realm. The young man suddenly raised his hand, and the suppressing fan flew out as fast as a stream of light, and a tiger roar sounded. The four-realm beast junction is actually very smart. After its outer body was destroyed by Zhu Ti, it knew that it could not get any favor from Zhu Ti, so it wanted to flee to the fourth realm of space. The realm of emptiness is as boundless and vast as the universe. It will be safe to escape into it. But Zhu Ti immediately sealed off the third realm. The sealing formation was extremely overbearing and it could not break out. It expected that the two gods in this realm would not let it go. It had little chance of winning if it faced them head-on, so it decided to make a sneak attack. It is very confident about sneak attacks. It is familiar with illusions and can hide itself with illusions. Although the third realm is blocked by the female fairy, in the final analysis it is the realm where it is condensed. It feels that it is hiding in this realm and sneaks up on the two of them when they are not paying attention, and then devoured them in one bite, which was a good tactic. But he didn't want to tiptoe towards them. After a few steps, he was noticed and his front leg was injured by a powerful magic weapon. It couldn't help but feel angry and scared. Fortunately, he was also very good at escaping, so he ran away and hid. But it couldn't understand why it was noticed so quickly even though it didn't make any sound. How could it know? Because of its illusion of hiding its body, Lian Song could not see it, but all the illusions in the world were useless against the god of light. As soon as it emerged from the thick clouds in midair, Zhu Ti saw it. It's up. In the realm of Xianghua, it is already night. The bright moon hangs high, reflecting the scenery outside the country. This place is a mountain valley with clear springs, lakes, and vegetation. Looking up, you can see the continuous mountains and chaotic clouds. This is a space array, and everything in front of you is real. In the deep mountains and secluded forests, if a beast from all four realms wants to hide, even Zhu Ti would have a hard time finding out where it is hiding. Therefore, after seeing the beast from the four realms fleeing into the mountains and forests and disappearing for an instant, Zhu Ti frowned slightly. It's a pity that it escaped. Although this realm is not big, the terrain is such that it is quite difficult to find it again. To it. She looked at the young man. I forgot that you couldn't see it before, so I asked you to conquer it alone. Now that I think about it, it's a bit difficult, so I should work with you. Then she left. The embroidery couch. Get up. But the young man held her shoulders and said, You can rest here. You don't need to follow me. I have a way. She was about to ask, What can you do? When she felt him push her. The force was gentle, but the embroidered couch moved back several feet. The Zhani fan that had just been injured by the four-realm beasts and returned to the young man's hands was thrown into the air. The fan unfolded and the mysterious light spread out, forming a very dazzling double-deer golden wheel. The golden wheel spread out the evil light, enveloping her in it, forming an indestructible protective barrier. The outer bodies of the four-realm beasts were all destroyed, and it was impossible for the real body of the four-realm beasts to take the initiative to look for her. But the young man made an unbreakable protective barrier for her. Who was he guarding against? She was doubting herself when she suddenly heard a roar in the distance. She looked up and saw whales and waves coming from all directions. They were turbulent and powerful. Soon, they drowned everything in sight. She was stunned for a while before she realized that this was what the young man had done. The water god can control the water in the world. The young man attracted water from all directions and put the third realm into a vast ocean. Looking out across the barrier a moment ago, those huge waves were like ferocious beasts, howling and roaring unbridled, devouring everything in the realm. At this moment, all the waves have calmed down, as if the raging force just now has been exhausted. It weakened them so much that they had to fall into a slumber. When the waves were raging just now, it was a bit scary, but now, this vast ocean can be called beautiful. The mysterious light of the barrier diffuses in the water, like a very skilled embroiderer, using gold thread to embroider this area of water. Not far away, the young man stood quietly in this quiet and beautiful water, eyes closed, as if feeling something. Kosaburo's magic power may be more powerful than she imagined. Zhu Ti thought. At just over 70,000 years old, it can divert water and move the sea, turning the entire third realm into a vast ocean, which should not be underestimated. As she thought this, her eyes became a little bright and dim. So why did Kosaburo turn the third realm into a vast ocean? He should know that the four-realm beasts are not afraid of water. Liansong did know that the four-realm beasts were not afraid of water, and he did not use such heavy methods just to drown the beast. Although the water god is not like the light god and can see through the phantoms of this world, the vast oceans in the world are the land of the water god. Every living creature placed in the water can be sensed by the water god. In this third realm, logically there should only be 3 living creatures, him, Zuri, and the beasts of the fourth realm. Filling the entire phase self realm with water, he can sense where the beasts of the 4 realms are hiding. Although Zhu didn't understand what Liansong was doing standing there, she knew she couldn't disturb him. After half a stick of incense, the young man finally raised his eyes and noticed her doubtful and worried eyes. He took a few steps closer and spoke to her through a thin but tough barrier. The water told me where it is. I'll be back as soon as I go. She immediately understood the function of the spell to divert water and move the sea, and was slightly tart-led. It seems you don't need me to be your eyes anymore. He nodded, but did not leave immediately. Instead, he looked at her face seriously for a while. She didn't understand why he didn't leave yet. Just when she was about to speak, she heard him ask, "Ayu, can you still hold on?" She smiled. "Half an hour is fine. Don't underestimate me." He said, and said, "Then wait for me here." After Liansong left a cup of tea, the originally quiet water outside the barrier began to vibrate, indicating that he had found the four-realm beast and was fighting with it. Zhu was a little curious, but she didn't try to walk out of the barrier that Liansong had set for her to watch the battle. After more than half an hour, she finally couldn't hold on anymore, so she touched her heart and vomited several mouthfuls of blood. The evil force broke through and swept through her limbs and bones in a gushing force. She fainted on the embroidered couch covered in sweat. Before her consciousness disappeared, she was still thinking that she had a fairly accurate understanding of herself and the evil power of the Western Emperor Blade. She originally thought that she could sustain it for at least half an hour, and indeed she did. That's not bad. End of Chapter 16, Book 3.